Imagine this. It's July 1518 in the city of Strasbourg. A woman, known to us only as Frau Trophia, steps out of her house and begins to dance. Not a joyful jig, but a frantic, uncontrollable convulsion. There's no music, no celebration. Just her, dancing silently in the street. This isn't a story from a fantasy novel. This is a real historical event. Within a week, 34 others had joined her. By the end of the month, the number of dancers had swelled to 400. They danced day and night, their bodies racked with spasms, their faces contorted in a mix of agony and ecstasy. They couldn't stop. This was the dancing plague of 1518, a bizarre and terrifying episode where hundreds of people literally danced themselves to death. What could possibly cause such a phenomenon? The city's authorities were baffled. Physicians of the time, operating on the theory of hot blood, believed the cure was more dancing. They cleared out guild halls, erected a wooden stage in the town square, and even hired musicians to keep the afflicted moving, hoping they would dance the fever out of their systems. It was a catastrophic mistake. The non-stop exertion only pushed the dancers further toward their demise. People collapsed from heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion. Contemporary accounts claim that at its peak, the plague killed up to 15 people per day. The streets of Strasbourg, once a bustling center of commerce, became a macabre open-air dance hall of death. For centuries, this event has puzzled historians and scientists. How could so many people be compelled to dance until they dropped? One of the earliest and most enduring theories points to ergot poisoning. Ergot is a mold that grows on damp rye, the primary grain used for bread at the time. Ingesting this fungus can cause a condition called ergotism, which has two main forms. One causes gangrene, but the other, convulsive ergotism, leads to muscle spasms, tremors, and powerful hallucinations. The symptoms sound eerily similar to the descriptions of the dancing plague victims. The active chemical in ergot is lysergic acid, from which LSD is derived. So, were the people of Strasbourg tripping on moldy bread? It's a compelling idea, but it has some holes. Historians point out that while ergot could explain the convulsions and visions, it doesn't quite explain the coordinated, dance-like movements. Victims of ergotism are typically too debilitated to dance for days on end. Furthermore, not everyone in Strasbourg was affected, which you would expect if the city's entire grain supply was contaminated. Also, historical records of ergot poisoning describe a different set of symptoms, often more painful and less rhythmic. So, if it wasn't the bread, what was it? This brings us to the leading modern theory: mass psychogenic illness or mass hysteria. To understand this, we need to look at the world of 1518. The people of the Alsace region, where Strasbourg is located, were living through a period of extreme hardship. They had endured brutal winters, crop failures, and widespread famine. Starvation was rampant, and disease was a constant threat. On top of that, there was a deep-seated spiritual anxiety. The culture was steeped in superstition, and the fear of divine wrath was very real. There was a local legend of a saint, Saint Vitus, who was believed to curse sinners with a compulsive, uncontrollable dance. Imagine the psychological pressure cooker this created. The community was poor, starving, sick, and terrified. All it took was a single spark to ignite the kindling. That spark was Frau Trophia. When she started dancing, her distress resonated with her neighbors. In their shared state of extreme stress and suggestibility, her bizarre behavior became contagious. It wasn't a virus that spread, but an idea, a belief. They believed they were cursed, and so their bodies acted accordingly. This wasn't a conscious choice. It was a trance-like state, a psychological breakdown on a massive scale. The mind, under immense pressure, can manifest physical symptoms. This is known as a conversion disorder, where psychological stress is converted into physical ailments. In this case, the ailment was a frantic, fatal dance. The authorities' response, prescribing more dancing, only legitimized the phenomenon. By building stages and hiring musicians, they publicly validated the dancers' behavior, reinforcing the belief that this was something that had to be danced out. It created a feedback loop. The more official the response, the more real the plague seemed, and the more people succumbed to it. The public stage transformed individual breakdowns into a collective performance, drawing in more and more participants who saw this as a genuine affliction. It's a chilling example of how belief can shape reality, even to the point of death. This wasn't an isolated incident either. The dancing plague of 1518 is the most famous, but it's not the only one. There were nearly a dozen other documented instances of dancing mania in Europe between the 10th and 16th centuries. In 1374, another major outbreak swept across cities along the Rhine River, affecting thousands. In each case, the backdrop was similar: social and economic hardship, combined with a fertile ground of superstition and religious fear. These weren't happy people dancing for joy. They were desperate people, caught in a psychological trap, their bodies held hostage by their own minds. So what finally stopped the dancing in Strasbourg? After weeks of escalating deaths, the authorities finally realized their more dancing cure was a disaster. They changed tactics completely. The dancers were forcibly rounded up. The stages were torn down, the music silenced. The remaining victims were taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, the very saint they feared had cursed them. There, they were made to pray for absolution. This intervention likely broke the psychological spell. By shifting the focus from a physical ailment to a spiritual one, and offering a clear path to redemption, the authorities gave the dancers a way out of their trance. The plague subsided as quickly as it had begun. The story of the dancing plague serves as a stark and bizarre reminder of the power of the human mind, both to create and to destroy. It shows how, under the right conditions of stress, fear, and shared belief, entire communities can fall victim to a collective delusion with very real and very deadly consequences. It's a dark chapter in history that blurs the line between psychology, sociology, and biology. We may never know with absolute certainty what caused Frau Trafia to start dancing that summer day, but her story, and the hundreds who followed her, echoes through time as a warning. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that live inside our own heads. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the strange corners of history.